I like to say that I accidentally fell into my healing journey because it's not something that I was intentional about. It's not until a couple of years into working on myself that I could actually call it a healing journey. So in today's video, I'm going to share the 5 things that I wish I had known when I started on my healing journey and things that nobody told me to expect. Welcome to Healing for Brown Girls, where we have conversations about healing for women. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified every time I post a new video on Wednesday. When starting on my healing journey, I wish I had known that healing is not a linear process. So in the beginning, when I started therapy, I was convinced that if I had fixed this one problem in my life or I had addressed this one emotion, that everything else in my life would be fixed. And I quickly realized that wasn't the case, because as I started digging, I realized I had to go all the way back to my childhood, to things that had happened years prior. And I feel like sometimes we say to ourselves, if I fix this one problem or this one thing, then all else will be great, all else will be fixed. And that's not how healing works. There's no chronological order for the things that you're going to heal as well. So it's not like you can take out a piece of paper and write down the 5 things from 1 to 5 that you're going to heal. Because as humans, we're not robots. We're human beings. We have emotions, we have feelings. Life happens to us all. So one week may have an epiphany about something that you realize needs to be healed or needs to be fixed, and it may be completely, totally different from what you were working on the week before. What I've learned is that life will guide you with what you need to heal. And I think it's dependent on what you're going through. You know, we all have different seasons in our life. We all have different things that we go through. I realized during my healing journey, I had so many ups and downs. One day I could see the glow up, and the next day I couldn't get out of bed. So it really depended on what I was going through, what I was working through at the moment. I had to realize and I had to accept that healing is not to get to a certain destination. It's the journey. It's a journey about becoming another person, becoming a different person, and about growth. While going through my healing journey, I wish I had known how much grief and loss I was going to experience on my own journey. While going through your healing journey, it may sometimes feel very lonely. And I was actually fortunate enough to be able to have other people in my life who was actually going through their own healing journey at the time. So it was nice for me to be able to have conversations with them or even vent to them and just be able to relate to one another. But I know for some of us, we may not have anyone who's going through a healing or self-love journey, and we may feel like we're completely isolated. And although I did have other people in my life who was also going through a transformation as well, we weren't going through the same things at the same time. So sometimes I did still feel lonely. I did still feel alone. But what I realized during that time is that isolation is sometimes needed for you to heal. You know, I remember hearing a quote that you can't heal from the same place you got sick. And that really resonated with me because there were a lot of situations that I was in and relationships that I had with people that had to end in order for me to really heal myself. Also, the way you connect with people will be different. As you're going through your journey, and especially for me, I had to set certain boundaries. So if you have family members or friends or a partner who've known you to be a certain way for years, it may be difficult for them to adjust to the new you. And I realized the biggest thing for me was when I started setting boundaries with people in my life, that's really when the chaos started. Expectations of yourself, expectations that you have for other people will change. And you also come to terms that there are some things that you may want or need from another person where they're just not able to give it to you. So with all of that, I also had to learn to grieve my old self, because I was never going to be the old Missy. I was not going to go back to where I was. So I had to accept that I was becoming a different person. And sometimes when you're used to the chaos in your life, although you're feeling better and things are looking better and you're actually getting what you want, it can sometimes feel like you're losing a piece of yourself. And that's what it felt like sometimes. Sometimes I would feel like I was actually losing a piece of myself. And sometimes I would try to hold on to the chaos and confusion because that's what I was so used to and that's what I was comfortable with. One thing about God, the universe, He will continue to give you a lesson until you get it. And once I got it, it was like, okay, let's move this along. Let me get the lesson so I can move on with my life. And that was another aspect that I had to grieve with myself too, because it just felt like sometimes it would take me forever. It would take me lesson after lesson to finally be able to get it. Your tolerance for certain things or people will decrease drastically. One thing I've realized is that we typically deal with things based on our current level of understanding. And one thing I noticed is that when I was going through my journey is that I was very aware of certain things, people, or even environments that didn't feel good or just did not sit well with my spirit. And I found that I had to start avoiding these people, things, or places, or just not entertain them altogether. And I realized that my perspective for a lot of things changed. And as my perspective changed, the way I felt about certain things changed as well. And I'm currently at a season in my life where my tolerance for chaos or confusion is just so low. And I feel like once you get to a place where you have peace, it's really hard to go back to anything that's opposite of that. One thing that I didn't expect to learn on this journey is how much I was going to appreciate and value my femininity. While going through my journey, I really had to do everything to protect my womanhood. And with doing that, I had to be comfortable with letting go of the people or things that no longer served me. I had to accept complete responsibility for my life, the things that occurred in my life, and to just realize that I was in total control of the decisions that I was making. And with that mindset, it really helped me to understand that I was the one who was leading my own life and I was the one who was guiding myself to be able to live the life that I wanted. My journey really forced me to put myself first and to really consider how I was treating myself. It really forced me to flow and just become completely vulnerable because I learned that I had very little control and what was really going on. And I had to really learn how to surrender to the process and just surrender to God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in. I really had to learn how to surrender to the process because it was only so much that I could control. And that's really what femininity is about. It's about being in the flow, being vulnerable, and surrendering to the process. The last thing that I wish I knew about healing is that healing is a lifelong journey. When I started therapy 4 years ago, I thought I was gonna just go in, have a few therapy sessions, fix what I needed to be fixed, and be on my merry way. 4 years later, I'm still learning so much about myself, discovering new things that I need to work on, and just evolving as a person. And I had to realize that healing doesn't equal perfection. Just because you're on a healing journey does not mean you're gonna wake up one day, be fixed, and there's nothing else that you need to work on ever again. And it also does not mean that life is gonna stop happening to you. Bad things happen to you, and just because you're on a healing journey does not mean you're exempt from that. And because life continues to happen and you continue to evolve as a person, it only makes sense that you're going to experience new things about yourself or discover new things that you need to work on or heal. There is literally levels to healing. Every time I get to a place where I feel like I'm comfortable, I'm flowing, I'm good, out of nowhere comes something else for me to work on, another epiphany that I have, or just something that I need to work on even more. And sometimes you may feel like you've worked on something and it's been healed until you get to a different situation and you realize, oh, I'm not completely healed from that, or I still have more work to do. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier in the video, that healing is not linear. It's not a linear process. There's no chronological order. You just really, again, have to surrender to the process, and life is going to be ebbs and flows, and really just going with the flow and doing your best at the moment. Going through a healing journey is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done for myself, but it's also one of the hardest. And I feel like a lot of the times whenever we talk about healing, we tend to focus on the beautiful aspects of it, which there are. There's a lot of beautiful things about healing. but sometimes we tend to leave out the ugly parts as well. And that's what healing is about. It's not roses and butterflies all the time. And in the beginning, that's what I thought it was. I thought I was going to feel amazing all the time. And that's not the case. Healing is about learning to accept and be our best selves. It's about being completely vulnerable and transparent and living the life that we want. For me, my biggest thing was about finding peace. I wanted peace in all areas of my life. And being on my healing journey have really shown me how to do that. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And it's one of the greatest things I could have ever done for myself. With all the good, the bad, and the ugly, I still wouldn't trade my journey for anything else. It's really made me a better person, and I'm the happiest I've ever been, and I have the most peace in my life. And for me, that means the world. So I hope me sharing the ugly parts of my healing journey will help you recognize the ugly parts of your own healing journey. So what's one thing that you wish you knew on your healing journey? Comment below. And if you have any questions about anything mentioned in this video, please feel free to email me at healingforbrown girls@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and share this video with a friend if you enjoyed it. Until next time, bye.